Let's talk about sadness today. Now, we all know that sadness is a very profound and predominant human emotion that has plagued humanity ever since the first man set foot on the face of this earth. But there could be a wide assortment of reasons that fuel the state of being in humans, irrespective of the fact whether this state of being in humans is a temporary phenomenon, is a situational phenomenon, occupies a major chunk of their lives, or is a perennial phenomenon for them. And this is a topic that I have spent quite some time deliberating upon. And I have zeroed in on some reasons which I'm going to be sharing with you. So, why do people generally feel sad and hopeless? Is it because they are born and brought up in economically challenging situations which compartmentalize them as children of a lesser god or lesser mortals? Or is it because they're in a constant state of questioning their self worth, their self esteem, their self confidence, and of course their self importance? Or is it because they're constantly bogged down by societal hierarchies and are constrained by a minuscule window, by a minuscule opportunity matrix of vertical mobility and horizontal enrichment, leaving them frustrated and hopeless? Or is it because they feel that they have been relegated to the back burners of a human existence which is fraught with unmitigable risks, unpredictable dangers, and of course, unrelenting challenges? Let's talk further. Or is it because they cannot bear a loved one's misery? They simply cannot accept and overcome failures. Or perhaps they cannot contend with a loved one's death. Or worse still, they simply cannot deal with rejection from a desirable person. Or is it because they feel frustrated by life's unending challenges? Or is it because they feel unloved and uncared by people who matter the most to them? Or is it because they simply feel let down by the near and dear ones and they feel ignored, they feel unloved, they feel uncared, disrespected by those who matter the most to them? Or is it because they consider themselves as failures in their lives? They consider themselves unworthy of any kind of an adulation and respect. They consider themselves below par when it comes to a comparative analysis with their friends, neighbors, relatives, even siblings. Or is it because they consider themselves as inconsequential beings in an environment of consequence, of huge consequence? Or is it because they are constantly worried about the kids' futures? They feel totally unfulfilled in their personal, professional, and social lives. They are stuck in a quagmire of despondency and despair, and of course, sometimes desolation too. And then, of course, they are embarrassed about their past, they're trepidatious about their present, and they are highly apprehensive about their future. Or is it because they wish for the actualization of their hidden desires, they crave for the realization of their unfulfilled dreams, they desire for the materialization of their unachieved ambitions, and of course they long for the manifestations of their cherished ideal life scenarios? It could be any of these or all of these. And there could possibly be a zillion reasons under the sun that fuel these states of individual human existence, which range from the negative to the pessimistic. Now, being born and brought up in economically challenging and harsh ethoses and environments is not your fault. But it definitely is your fault if you continue to stay in that state, because being born poor is not your choice. But staying poor definitely is your choice. So, what do you have to do? You simply have to strive to change the status quo in your favor. That's how you do it. In today's fast paced world, which is in a constant state of flux, disruption, and transformation, societal hierarchies are absolutely delicate and fluid, and they come equipped with their own sets of enabling and constraining factors. Now, it depends entirely on you whether you want to be getting swayed by the currents or you want to swim successfully against them to succeed. Now, all you need to do is to make a commitment to yourself to rise above all these constraining factors, and you'll make it to the top. Now, everyone in this world has to contend with overwhelming circumstances in their lives wherein there may be instances wherein you start questioning the very edifice of your existence and esteem, your persona, and of course, your purpose in life. But such feelings should at best be transitory and should be laid to rest pretty soon. And we should avoid getting them embedded into our psyches permanently. So what I recommend is that scrap this negativity. Now, in this VUCA world, which is filled, which is fraught with volatility, uncertainty, confusion, and ambiguity, every human being, that includes you and me, is operating in an environment which is fraught with dangers, risks, and challenges. The future is unpredictable for everyone. That includes you, me, and billions of others on the face of this earth. Now, that does not make you an exception. Now, what I would recommend to you in these situations is to just go out bravely, deal with your challenges, content with them, overcome them, instead of cocooning yourself and deluding yourself into believing that these challenges are either going to go away on their own or they are not meant for you. Well, I must disappoint you by saying that this is not how life happens. This journey called life, which all life forms have to undertake, is, amongst other things, full of pain, sorrow, loss, trauma, suffering, and troubles. And these are the ingredients of the crucible of life wherein our character and personae are forged. So experience these emotions and let them make you more resilient and resourceful. Our expectations and standards of fulfillment largely dictate our happiness and contentment in our lives. Now, these expectations and standards of fulfillment are plugged in and applied by us to people and circumstances whom we consider to be either consequential or simply indispensable in our lives, such as our parents, our spouses, our siblings, our friends, our kids, even our colleagues. Now, these variables even determine the quality and quantum of our relationships in our lives. But then, expectations and standards that we apply in our lives for fulfillment are almost always untenable, unachievable, and unrealistic. So it helps. So it really helps to plug in realism in this envelope of expectations and standards to make it a viable and tenable option so that we can simply swim through this morass and come out unscathed. Our expectations and standards of fulfillment largely dictate our happiness and contentment in our lives. Now, these expectations and standards of fulfillment are largely applied to people and circumstances by us whom we consider to be either extremely important, indispensable, or relevant to our lives. Now, they could be our parents, our spouses, our siblings, our kids, our friends, even our colleagues. Even the quality and quantum of a relationship or relationships, even the quality and quantum of our relationships is dictated largely by these two variables in our lives. But then we all know that expectations and standards of fulfillment that we apply in our lives are almost always unachievable, untenable, and unrealistic. Even the quality of our relationships is largely determined by these two variables in our lives. But then we all know that expectations and standards of fulfillment which we apply in our lives are largely untenable, unrealistic, and hence even the quality and quantum of our relationships is determined largely by these two variables that I discussed some time back. But then we all know our expectations and standards of fulfillment are largely untenable, unrealistic, and hence unachievable. So it would help to plug in a lot of realism in this envelope of expectations and standards of fulfillment to make it a tenable proposition so that we can move through this morass and come out unscathed in our lives. Our expectations and standards of fulfillment largely dictate our happiness and contentment in our lives. Now, these expectations and standards of fulfillment are largely applied by us to either people or circumstances whom we consider to be extremely important or even indispensable and, of course, very relevant in our lives. They could be our parents, our spouses, our kids, our siblings, our friends, even our colleagues. Even the quality and quantum of our relationships is largely determined by these two variables in our lives. But then we all know that expectations and standards of fulfillment are largely untenable, unrealistic, hence unachievable. So it would be prudent to plug in realism in this envelope of expectations and standards of fulfillment that we impose in our lives so that it becomes a tenable proposition to help us navigate this morass and come out unscathed in our life. Now, there will always be people who have a better pedigree than you, irrespective of what your definition of a pedigree is. There will always be people who will be better groomed, better educated, better skilled, better employed, better earning, better successful, better looking, better married, better loved, better adulated than you. Now, this is an unalterable equation of our universe, the one in which we live and breathe in. So, there are two options for you: either be happy with your lot or strive and sweat it out to improve your count, your score on all these fronts by constantly re engineering and reinventing yourself. That's the only way out. Surprisingly, a lot of people entertain this illusory notion that other than themselves, almost everybody else in this world has his or her life extremely well sorted out. But let me assure you that nothing could be further from truth or reality. Nobody in this world has his or her life extremely well sorted out. Nobody in this world is living an ideal life. Nobody in this world has a life which is perpetually inhabited by happiness, contentment, peace, or success. Every single soul on this planet is struggling on a daily basis to make things happen for themselves. So, my recommendation to you is to stop being morose about life's offerings because nobody's getting it presented to him or her on a platter. So, stop being morose and depressed about life's offerings. Instead, identify your purpose, define your purpose, and sweat it out to make it happen. And you will cease to be morose. Well, as I said sometime earlier in this video, there are a lot of people out there who are too embarrassed about their pasts, who are very trepidatious about their present state, and who are exceedingly apprehensive about their futures. Well, I have a very simple message for such people. Your past is long gone, and your future is not in your control. So there's only your present that you can work upon. It makes no sense to get bogged down by your past or start worrying about your future. Both of them are out of your ambit of influence. You simply cannot do anything about them. You cannot visit your past, you cannot travel to your future. You have to stick to your present at any point of time. So, what I recommend in such a situation is to learn from your past mistakes. Invest those learnings in your present so that you create a beautiful and a solid edifice for your future. And you know what? That's half your job done. Dreams, desires, cravings, and ambitions. We constantly load ourselves with these variables either due to external stimuli or internal impetus. Now, wishful thinking alone can never lead to either materialization or fulfillment of all these aspirations. Every single thing has to be planned and executed to achieve the desired outcome. Every single thing has to be planned and executed to achieve the desired output. So plan, prioritize, pursue, and perform to achieve your goals and ambitions. So to sum it up all, being sad and hopeless is absolutely and definitely your choice of preference, as is dealing with all those factors which precipitate such a state of being or mind. Now, what really matters in life is your will to deal with it, and not will it to deal with you. This maxim is the recipe for happiness in life. So come what may, hell or high water, strive to be and stay happy and hopeful with the unswerving and unshakable belief that you will contend with everything that comes your way successfully. Best of luck for that. So folks, this is it for today's video, and before I actually wind it up, as usual, I'd like to remind and request you to please subscribe to this channel, like and share this video, and do not forget to plug in your comments. I'd also like to thank you for your time, your patience, and of course your interest in running through these videos with me. Until the time we meet again, I'd request you and I'd love to have you taking care of yourselves, your loved ones and dear ones. Until that time, take care, God bless, and thank you very much.